Alright, we know that DC and Warner Brothers are making a New Gods movie directed by famed director Ava DuVernay, and that it's coming sometime. But there are reasons why I think DC and Warner Brothers decided to do this movie, and why they hired her to do it, and I'm going to list them now. In no particular order, because, something has to be one and something has to be like 5 or 6, right? There's only one way to do this list. But I think a lot of them are of equal importance. So let's get into it. Number 1. I think that Warner Brothers has seen that other superhero movies in space and with cosmic stuff going on can be very successful. Thor Ragnarok and Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, I think have proven that. Thor Ragnarok especially because that is based on the aesthetic that Jack Kirby created when he worked on Thor in the 60s. And Jack Kirby is the same person who created and drew and wrote the New Gods characters, back, I think, in the 70s for DC. And so we have one successful Kirby franchise, Kirby-based, franchise, Thor, and why not do in space? And why not do another one, the New Gods, in space too? It could be a win-win if, Warner Brothers and Ava DuVernay are able to get the visuals right. Number 2, diversity. Now, Black Panther has just made over $1 billion and is has a mostly black cast. And I think DC and Warner Brothers are looking at that and it's like, what other franchise can we have, with a mostly diverse cast that could, hit a lot of different ethnicities and have them come into the theater? Something like the New Gods. Now, I know in DC Comics, I think almost most of the New Gods have always been portrayed as white folks. But, they're going to have Ava DuVernay, race bend a lot of these characters. And we'll probably see a lot of Black, Latino, Asian, and white New Gods running, these planets together. And, the way the studio's thinking is that a lot of audiences of color, if they can see people who look like them starring in, a superhero space movie, they'll be more inclined to go to the theater to see it. And thus, potentially, that'll be a good money-making opportunity with all these different ethnicities coming to support this movie. That's probably the goal from a business standpoint. The next point, this gives DC and Warner Brothers time to properly introduce Darkseid without having him seem like a Thanos, copy or anything. Even though Darkseid was introduced first in the 70s comics in DC and Thanos came later in Marvel Comics. But anyways, if visually, both Thanos and Darkseid resemble each other. They're both like, heavy-set, large, purple guys. But they just have different kinds of armor. And they both, are cosmic supervillains who want to conquer all. I mean, their motivations are a little bit different, but basically they do just want to take over universes and destroy, billions of lives and stuff. And so since Thanos is coming first in Infinity War, DC has got to think about how to introduce Darkseid, later on when New Gods comes out and not have him seen, like a Thanos clone. Even though he's really not a Thanos clone in the eyes of the general public who don't know the comics that well. And now that they're doing a New Gods movie that's going to take place maybe 2 or 3 years from now, it'll give them time to think about how to distance themselves from Thanos with the Darkseid character. Next point, Steppenwolf will be back and maybe better explored than he was in Justice League. If you saw Justice League, you could totally tell that somewhere in that production process, they changed Steppenwolf's character because they cut Darkseid out of that movie. And so the tense relationship that Steppenwolf had with Darkseid, who's his nephew, by the way, was out of that movie. And a lot of the important character dynamics that Steppenwolf had in Justice League were not there anymore. But now that they're doing a New Gods movie, they can explore Steppenwolf really well, and Darkseid too, and what's going on between them. Because if you notice at the end of Justice League, Steppenwolf did not die. He was swarmed with parademons, but then he was boom-tubed, teleported back up to a ship, or maybe it was directly to Apocalypse, I forget. But that means he's still around. He's still alive to show up later in DC movies and to be done the right way. And I also think this means we might never get the Snyder Cut of Justice League, because the Snyder Cut of Justice League, I think, has a lot of New Gods and Darkseid, New Genesis stuff in it. But I don't know if DC would release that version if it's going to conflict with what they would put in their New Gods movie that comes out when Ava DuVernay is doing it. Because I don't know, maybe it might confuse people, or they're too, because I'm pretty sure what she's going to do with the New Gods would be different than what Zack Snyder was going to do with them. And it would just be weird. I mean, maybe someday they could release, a Zack Snyder cut, but I don't know if they would do that before New Gods came out. But I could be wrong. I mean, feel free to challenge me in the comments and help me understand why I could be wrong, but I don't know. I think this could be another reason why we may never see a Snyder Cut. I know Zack Snyder has been teasing certain things online, So maybe they are going to release something, but I could see how they wouldn't, because I think his version of the movie of Justice League did have a lot of New God stuff in it, but that's not going to be the same thing that we're going to get with this movie, so I don't see why they would release that. Not right now. But anyways, those are my reasons why I think we're getting a New Gods movie, and also what it does mean for past and future DC movies. That's my DC update for the day. I will be making more videos about DC stuff because I love DC. I appreciate your viewership. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to watch and make more videos about DC movies and TV shows. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.